The most shocking facts from how Scar got his scar just leaked. And not only that, we also found another theory that might have you jump out of your chair. Now let's talk about one of Disney's most unforgettable villains. Scar from The Lion King. Remember him? The sleek, cunning lion with that unmistakable scar over his eye. He's the guy we all love to hate. But here's the thing. While we all remember Scar's treacherous plot to overthrow Mufasa and take over the Pride Lands, there's always been a lingering question. How did Scar get that distinctive mark above his eye? If you've ever found yourself pondering the origin of Scar's scar, you're not alone. It's a tale that's been shrouded in mystery, adding layers to one of Disney's most complex villains. Stick around as we unravel the shocking truth behind how Scar got his scar. Did you know that before he became known as Scar, the infamous villain of The Lion King, he was called Taka, a name that carries significant weight in Swahili, translating to waste or desire? This moniker hints at the complexities of his character and perhaps foreshadows his tumultuous path. Growing up, Taka's pride grudgingly adopted Mufasa, but Taka and Mufasa shared a bond typical of siblings, filled with moments of camaraderie and rivalry. However, as time passed, the differences between them became more pronounced. Mufasa, with his strength and noble demeanor, was the heir apparent, destined to lead the Pride Lands, even though he never really wanted to be a leader. It was his destiny. Taka, on the other hand, was the king's son and destined leader. Unlike Mufasa, Taka wanted to be a king one day, but he was envious of the natural brave character of Mufasa, a character trait he clearly lacked. This sibling dynamic sowed the seeds of resentment in Taka's heart. He yearned for recognition and power, aspirations that were continually overshadowed by Mufasa's destined kingship. This growing jealousy and desire for acknowledgement set the stage for the events that would eventually transform Taka into the Scar we recognize. A lion driven by ambition and a deep-seated grudge against his brother. But what really happened between them? How did it escalate so bad that Scar was left with a lifelong scar? In the new film, Mufasa, The Lion King, directed by Barry Jenkins, we get a fresh perspective on Scar's origins. Originally known as Taka, Scar wasn't always the villain we remember. He and Mufasa weren't biological brothers, but formed a close bond after Mufasa was adopted into Taka's pride after a devastating flood. Their relationship was tight-knit, with Taka and Mufasa growing up side by side, sharing dreams and challenges. However, tensions arose when Taka's desire for power clashed with Mufasa's destiny. In a pivotal moment, Taka's mother was attacked by the rogue white lions, outsiders who wanted the entire land to themselves and be the reigning pride for miles. Mufasa, being the brave lion, jumped to the rescue of Taka's mother and helped save her life. Taka, on the other hand, was overcome with fear, and so he fled. Clearly, this was not very kingly, and it appeared Mufasa was displaying all of the traits Taka was supposed to have, but didn't. The incident leads to a rift between the brothers and setting Taka on a path that would eventually transform him into the Scar we know. But before we get ahead of ourselves, it turns out that Scar actually has a heart and proved that he loved Mufasa, but we'll get into that in a bit. One major important moment happened, and that was the last straw for Taka. It all began when Taka and Mufasa were searching for greener pastures, a place known as Milele. It was on this journey they encountered Sarabi, and she decided to join them too. However, along the way, Taka falls in love with Sarabi, and as any other brother would, he tells Mufasa about it, even going as far as taking pointers from Mufasa on how to get her interested. Mufasa, on the other hand, was happy for his brother. Even when the outsiders were on their trail and they had to cause an elephant stampede just to get away, Mufasa saves Sarabi from being trampled to death, and when she becomes conscious again, he gives Taka the credit, just to get her to see him as a hero. Sadly, Sarabi was not falling for this, and she later confronts Mufasa until he's forced to admit the truth. In that little conversation, sparks began to fly between Sarabi and Mufasa, and in a terrible stroke of fate, Taka is a few yards away and sees the whole thing. This was the moment he had enough. Driven by jealousy and blind rage, Taka decided to do something quite dreadful. He went on to betray Mufasa and secretly met with the outsiders, offered to join their cause and give them Mufasa's location. However, when the leader of the outsider, Kiros, finally tracks down Mufasa, a deadly battle begins, and it's at this moment that Taka has a change of heart. He realizes Kiros intends to go for the kill and end Mufasa's life, and realizes this is not what he wants. In that moment, he loved his brother and didn't want him harmed, so just as Kiros is about to deliver a final blow, Taka intercepts and takes the blow instead. As a result, there's a deep wound just over Taka's eye, but gives Mufasa enough time to jump in and get rid of Kiros. That injury would go on to become Taka's defining characteristic. When sanity is finally restored, Mufasa is still mad at Taka, yet merciful. He decides not to banish Taka for betraying him, but says he can never call him by his name anymore.
Brother, I'm so
But
sorry.
I won't ever say your name again. I can't. I won't.
Then call me Scar.
As you saw, it is Taka himself that suggests he be called Scar, so he wouldn't forget his own betrayal. Was this a selfless moment? One may argue so. Now, what does his scar really symbolize? Now, this is where things get tricky. According to some interpretations of his backstory, the injury was a direct consequence of his own jealousy. If his wound resulted from a failed attempt to sabotage Mufasa, then it became a permanent symbol of his self-inflicted downfall. It was a mark of humiliation, a reminder that his own actions had backfired. The fact that Mufasa supposedly began calling him Scar afterward suggests that this wound became more than just a physical mark. It became an identity bestowed upon him, something he would never be able to escape. But rather than seeing it as a lesson, Scar let the bitterness fester, using it as fuel for the resentment that would eventually consume him. And if you really think about it, Scar had every reason to be resentful. Before he became Scar, Taka was a lion who never seemed to measure up. As a cub, he was always in Mufasa's shadow, constantly overlooked, and never able to live up to his father's expectations. He wasn't the strongest, the fastest, or the most admired. He was simply there, always second best. As a teenager, things didn't get any better. Taka's attempts to prove himself only ended in failure, reinforcing his sense of inadequacy. Whether it was trying to gain his father's approval, earning respect from the pride, or finding a purpose, he fell short every time. It wasn't just that he was weaker than Mufasa, he lacked the natural charisma and leadership skills that made his brother a born king. Take a look at his love life also. The only lion he had ever loved was snatched away by his one and only brother, and no one seemed to care about his pain and hurt from it. And so, as an adult, Taka fully embraced his bitterness. His failures had hardened him, turning him into a lion consumed by jealousy and resentment. Even villains have regrets, and perhaps Scar's scar wasn't just a symbol of his anger, but of his pain, a reminder of a time when he was capable of caring, before his resentment overshadowed any affection he might have once had. So if you really think about it, is Scar really a villain or just widely misunderstood? Let's see what you think in the comments.